So I want to know, how many statues did the J6ers, how many statues did the January 6th protesters desecrate? All these foreign nationals in that crowd on Saturday that were vandalizing the White House should be immediately deported. Imagine how many of these thugs that were there on Saturday. Imagine how many of these thugs we could have deported if Joe Biden and the Democrats hadn't rigged the 2020 election. These people shouldn't have even been here. And we need to deport them now. All of these foreign nationals that were in that crowd on Saturday that defaced these statues, all these foreign nationals in that crowd need to be deported immediately. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We've got so much to cover here on a Monday morning, 6:06 a.m. I hope you had a great weekend. Text me. Let me know what you did over the weekend. 309-451-9299. That's our buzz line. That's brought to you by the Princeton Gun Show. The Princeton Gun Show is a bit later in November this year. Uh, and they've got all kinds of things at the Princeton Gun Show, from modern hunting or hunting firearms and black powder hunting firearms. I mean, the Princeton Gun Show has it all. They have a wide array of inventory, so just check it out. It's the Princeton Gun Show. What are we going to be talking about this morning? A roofing company in Florida offering a free AR-15, ooh, and a turkey with the purchase of a new roof. I thought that this was a hilarious story. And I mean, this roofing company is pretty based. So we're going to get to that. Plus, this BLM activist out there, she's from Britain. She's a British BLM activist. Now, I think it's hilarious. She's apologizing and she says that she's extremely sorry for spending donations to fund her lavish lifestyle. And she actually got sentenced to prison, a couple of years in prison for fraud. Yes, so she frauded people, she took donations, and she spent it on food and Ubers, and she lived this lavish lifestyle. We're going to talk about this BLM activist coming up here in the 6 o'clock hour. Plus, I've got to tell you about Rashida Tlaib. So she went bananas and called Joe Biden. Well, she accused Joe Biden of genocide because occasionally Joe Biden will come out and condemn the Hamas attacks, and did on October 7th, kind of. So the U.S. Office of Palestinian Affairs, they actually tweeted out that Israel should um, there should be a ceasefire and that Israel shouldn't defend itself against the Hamas attacks that happened on October 7th. So Joe Biden has kind of been wishy-washy about the whole situation. I wouldn't even say that he's pro-Israel, especially not because Joe Biden has been sending money to both those in Gaza and those in Israel. He's funding both sides of the war. So these people are just stupid when they accuse Joe Biden of genocide, because these pro Hamas supporters over the weekend, they stormed the White House, and they were shouting and chanting very Islamic or very anti-Semitic chants. Uh, int- intifada. We're gonna get to what that Arabic word means, but it's very anti-Semitic. And these protesters stormed the White House. They defaced statues over the weekend. It was on Saturday, and this happened right after Rashida Tlaib. I mean, I think Rashida Tlaib caused an insurrection. I think that she incited a riot with this tweet she came out with. She accused Joe Biden of genocide, which subsequently led to these pro Hamas protesters storming the White House. So, we're going to get to all of that here on the Morning Buzz. You better believe that this roofing company is all about that based. Butter believe. Yeah, this roofing company is based. Based means conservative, for those of you who might not know that. Um, but yes, this is an amazing deal. So this roofing company in Florida, of course not here because Armalite rifles, that's what AR stands for. It's not assault rifle. There's no such thing as an assault weapon, no such thing as an assault rifle. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Anything can be an assault weapon. A baseball bat can be an assault weapon. It's if you commit assault, I guess, with that weapon, then therefore it's an assault weapon. So I don't really understand how we in Illinois have passed an assault weapons ban, but that's besides the point. This roofing company, if you need a new roof, you can kill two birds with one stone and get yourself a turkey and an AR-15, because the owners of the Florida Roofing Company have announced its roof and gobble sale. So it's a roof and gobble sale. So if you get a roof, you also get a turkey for Thanksgiving, and you get an AR-15. And it's a sale that's going on all month, all month long, which I'm like, whoa, this is pretty cool. So the owners of Roof EZ, that's the name of the company. It's located in Cape Coral in Florida. And they announced this kind of unique Thanksgiving special where anyone who purchases a roof during the month of November will not only receive a free frozen turkey, but they're also going to get an AR-15. That's pretty cool. So the local news, I think it's so funny when I hear local news cover things about guns or about abortion. And, people will say, Kat, you're so biased. And it's like, yeah, I am. What of it? Yes, I'm biased. And I make that very clear. It's a conservative talk show, it's a conservative talk format. We air Dan Bongino, Sean Hannity. I think it's pretty clear that this is a conservative talk format. What's really disappointing, though, is when you hear local news and when you read local news, because they're deceptive and they won't tell you that they have a liberal bent, or they won't tell you that they have a Democrat bent to their reporting. But you can hear it and you can read it and you can see it because they use things like the terminology called assault rifle. Somebody who is conservative or somebody who understands a little bit about guns, just a little bit. I'm not telling you that you got to be some sort of expert, but anybody who leans to the right of center, or is center, would not use the terminology assault weapon or assault rifle because it's not, well, it's not even factually accurate. But you can tell that these people are liberal. This local news that picked up the story, and I kind of like playing these because they're like assault weapon. They're giving away an assault weapon. Well, it's not really called that, but here we go.
Are you looking to get your roof replaced? Well, one business in Cape Coral is bringing out the big guns to get you to buy from them. Literally, the owners are giving away a free turkey and a free AR-15 with every purchase.
It's controversial because that same rifle has been connected to a lot of mass shootings in America, including the Parkland school shooting here in Florida. NBC2's Gage Golding is local for us tonight in Northeast Cape Coral, learning how they came up with the idea.
Companies try all sorts of things to try to lure you in to buy their products, maybe offering you a hat or even a hoodie. But one roofing company in Cape Coral is kicking it up this Thanksgiving, giving you a turkey and an AR-15.
The turkey will get you all sitting at the table so you can spend time together. The roof will protect your home, and the AR-15 will protect your family.
It's a package deal that Jason Pauly thought couldn't be any better for his company to offer this Thanksgiving. But Roof Easy can't take all of the credit.
I actually saw this idea. A company did it in Alabama. I figured, hey, we're in Florida. This is the most Florida thing you can do. Let's do it.
But of all the things they could have thrown in to make the deal stand out,
you want to tickle my fancy? Give me a $20,000 boat for my $20,000 roof.
Why did they choose an assault rifle?
The world's a crazy place right now, and if they can get a roof and an AR-15 for protection on both ends, why not?
Is it enough to convince some Floridians to hire him? Well, it depends on who you ask.
Do you think it's a good promo, or what are your thoughts on it?
No, I don't think so.
That's a good idea. Everybody should have one. That's all right.
Now, Jason and his roofers aren't going to have a cooler full of frozen turkeys and a small armory in the back of their trucks. If you went in on the deal, you have to go through the same steps as if you were buying a gun on your own. Local arms dealer Shoot Center in Cape Coral is their supplier.
You got to get a background check. You can't have any felonies. And once you pass your background check, you can pick it up in 3 days.
I mean, I wouldn't have my roof done just for that.
What if you're like Buddy and just simply don't want the gun?
So that's their own preference. If they don't want the AR-15, we'll give them $500 off the roof.
That's how much the AR-15 is worth. Still think this is all just a marketing ploy? Well, you're right, but it's already working.
We've already got...
So, I mean, I'm so excited for this company, and God bless these guys from Roof EZ. But I want to call this little offer "Beauty in the Feast" because this AR-15 is a beauty. I was like, man, $500. I was like, that's all it's worth. It's kind of it's a brand new gun. So there was somebody, of course, who didn't like it, and she's from the oh gosh, what is it called? It's like the Gun Violence Florida. Her name is Patty Burgum. So she's the president of Gun Violence Florida. She talked to the local news and she goes, "Why would a business want to give away AR-15s to those getting a new roof? What's the purpose of that?" It's such a destructive thing to do. This is what she tells the local news. And she goes, "That business is just adding to the culture of gun violence. The AR-15 is the choice of mass shooters," which is just not true. Yes, the Parkland one did use an Armalite rifle, or an Armalite rifle, AR-15. But most mass shootings do not. Let's say Audrey Hale, she didn't use an AR-15. And look, she goes on, she goes, support American family values by adding more AR-15 weapons of war, weapons of war to the public's stream. I mean, that's not a family value at all. She says family values are about love and acceptance and forgiveness, not arming the public even further with these military style firearms. It's sick. How about, how is being ready to protect your family if danger presents itself, where danger presents itself? It's not even if, it's when danger presents itself. How is that sick, lady? Patty? But it's so funny. I think that liberals loathe Thanksgiving, the Second Amendment, and probably turkey because they're all vegan. Okay. But these people get a roof. Plus, they also get that special going on where they get $500 off of the roof. No, they don't get the free tofu turkey. That's not what they're offering. They're offering you $500 off your roof because that's the value of the AR-15. You've got something to get out of this if you don't want the AR-15. That's the thing. You can deny the AR-15, still get a roof, and still get $500 off. Okay. I think they're just big mad because they're not getting their vegan turkey, their tofu turkey. But look, I think this company is something special. And I've got to take a quick break. But when we come back, I do want to talk a little bit about this BLM activist. She's a British BLM activist, and she says that she's extremely sorry because she got caught committing fraud in the name of BLM. So she was taking out thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in donations out of these, or dollars out of these donations that she was collecting. And she was using these thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to really just use it on her own lavish lifestyle. I mean, she was spending money on takeout, on Uber, and now she's going to be jailed for 2.5 years. I think that's hilarious. That's next on the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'll be right back. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We're going to be back. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. Extra hour of sleep. Yes, we did get an extra hour of sleep. I finally changed my truck clock over. We're going to be back talking a little bit about this BLM activist. I think it's a hilarious story. And hopefully, we're going to be visiting with that reporter, William J. Kelly from Chicago this morning. It's Monday morning. We'll be back. Woohoo! Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll talk a little bit about this Black Lives Matter activist. So she's out of Britain, um, the UK, right? So she's a British BLM activist, and she says she's extremely sorry. Why is she extremely sorry? Well, she got caught on a fraud charge in the name of Black Lives Matter. She was taking all kinds of donations, tens of thousands of dollars in donations, and she was using that money to live her own lavish lifestyle. And part of this, I mean, you can see that she spent over $6,000 on Uber and takeout. Like, she's spending thousands of dollars to live this lavish lifestyle. She committed fraud, and she is actually going to be spending some time in jail, 2.5 years, according to the BBC. We are going to get to that here coming up in just a little bit. This is the Morning Buzz, 6:26 a.m. Good morning, Kat. How's that extra hour of sleep? I'm doing great. I feel well rested. I'm enjoying the show this morning. And yes, I finally turned back the clock uh to back an hour. Yeah, back an hour. It went back an hour, so I had to change the clock on my truck. I still got to do the oven. I did not change the clock on the oven, but I mean, the extra hour of sleep was awesome. Before we get into the BLM activists, I want to play this here for you because I do a show on Saturday evenings from 5 to 6, Conservative Cat, and my show this weekend actually took a look at holidays, Christian holidays, and I highly recommend you go take a listen to it. If you're a Christian, it will help you out. Is Christmas, is Easter pagan or is it Christian? Is Halloween pagan or is it Christian? Myself and Pastor Tim Farrell from the Tabernacle. If you're watching me on the live stream, I'm sporting the Tabernacle hoodie. I'm very involved in my church. I am a youth leader, and the Tabernacle is here in Normal. And we talked about this because a lot of people were like, "Cat, you can't celebrate Halloween, you can't celebrate Christmas, can't celebrate Easter." And we kind of just unpacked all of it. We unpacked what All Saints Day was. That was on November 1st, and we even unpacked what All Souls Day was, which was on November 2nd. So it comes from a lot of it comes from the Orthodox, it comes from the Catholics. This All Saints Day, um, and how they celebrate it, how it happened, or how it came to be on November 1st, All Saints Day. So we unpacked that, but also in that interview, I asked uh, Pastor Timothy James Farrell a little bit about Palestine and his answer here. And this is what makes me so upset with the leftists. It's because they're so uneducated. You know what I mean? When it comes to the Bible specifically. And I want to play a little bit from the podcast we aired here on Cities 92.9 from 5 to 6. That's Conservative Cat. Uh, I want to air some of this here on the Morning Buzz because I think it's so important before we get into Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib is out there accusing Joe Biden of genocide. These pro-Hamas supporters, they stormed the White House. Yes, it was very insurrection-y. And they were chanting things like, long live the Intifada. So that's anti-Semitic, intifada. And we're going to get to that Arabic word. But before I get to that Arabic word, I want to talk about the word Palestine and where it comes from. And if you're watching, you can see the podcast. I'm going to play a little bit of it. And I think it's important. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
There is no such thing as the Palestinian people, ethnically or biblically. It was an invention from the Roman Caesars in the year 135 A.D. When they destroyed Jerusalem in 70 A.D. The Caesar, the emperor of Rome, wanted to cleanse Israel of the Jews, and so there was this great dispersion, of course, in 70 A.D. In 135, they went in, the Romans, I should say, through their military, and really tried to cleanse the land, push the Israeli people out of their homeland. And in the vacuum and in the void of the Israelis, he brought in people from all over Arab nations and renamed the nation of Israel, the land of Israel, Palestine or Palestinia. And it actually comes from Rome. And so, you know, that was when that's kind of the origin of that. It's not, I mean, it was made up. It wasn't even on the map before that. And so, you know, the history of the Holy Land, the history of the people is 4,000 years old versus those of the Palestinian people. And so, you know, there's been great conflict and, of course, over the land of Israel throughout history, and but that's the most current events that we have today, and that's where the Palestinian people came from.
So I don't know if this is true. Philistine.
Yeah,
That's a Hebrew word.
that was one of the Philistines actually lived where the Palestinians live today, and that is the southwest corner. We would call that the Gaza Strip today. Was the land of the Philistines. You've ever heard of David and Goliath? Goliath was a Philistine, and the arch enemies of the nation of Israel, of all the people, were the Philistines. They had more, and the Philistines would come in like Hamas and terrorize the Israelis. They would every once in a while attack them and burn their cities and rape their women and kill their children. Well, here we are 3,000 years later, 2,000 years later, 1,000 years later, and we're still seeing the same things take place in Israel today. It's nothing new under the sun, according to Ecclesiastes, right? And so, sadly, it's a part of that, and there's true animosity between those two groups of people, the Israelis and the Philistines, or the Palestinians.
Wow. So there's the history there, folks. Palestine, not really even a country. Definitely not a country. And I've explained it before. These Palestinian people. The actual term Philistine, right? You've heard it here. That was Pastor Tim Farrell from the Tabernacle. He explains the Philistines and how the Philistines were actually constantly going after the Israelis in history. So before we get into Rashida Tlaib, I wanted to play that for you because she's actually accusing Joe Biden of genocide, and these pro-Hamas supporters stormed the White House. And none of these supporters really understand that Palestine, there is no country called Palestine. This was a made-up word. The Romans used that word in 70 AD when they destroyed Israel. So we're going to get to all of that, but first I do want to talk with reporter William J. Kelly here on the line. We're going to first play your tweet that has gotten a lot of traction. It's about the migrant crisis. William, we're going to play that here, and then I want your reaction
Wonderful.
to your reporting here. I mean, this is just incredible how bad this has really gotten in Chicago. So let's take a listen. Here we go.
Doesn't look private. I'm sorry.
Well, it's a private.
This is a hotel.
No, this is not a hotel.
It is a hotel.
So the Chicago mayor, Brandon Johnson, flew he flew to Washington, D.C. to plead with President Joe Biden for $5 billion in federal taxpayer money to pay for the migrant crisis. We're going to continue here. Then Johnson secretly signed a land lease for $90,000 per month in Chicago's Brighton Park over the objections of many residents. Many residents did not want this $90,000 a month, this land lease signed to build a $19 million winter migrant base camp. So this is a winter migrant base camp. He's spending $19 million to do that. Some migrant shelter employees are earning up to $800,000 per year. So let's continue here.
This is
And
reporter
here's
William J. Kelly in
Kelly.
Chicago. If you've been following me, you've seen my viral reports on the Inn of Chicago, Michigan Avenue, the Standard Club, and O'Hare Airport, which have been turned into multi-million-dollar migrant shelters by Mayor Brandon Johnson. What you may not know is that the city of Chicago has secretly renewed its $40 million contract with Kansas-based Favored Healthcare Staffing. Favored Healthcare Staffing was a COVID-19 staffing company with a lucrative state of Illinois contract. And now, magically, it's a migrant shelter manager. An old Facebook ad for Favored Staffing announces 6-week crisis contracts for RNs and CNAs. Their employment database still lists pandemic healthcare worker jobs, but they've since shifted to migrant healthcare caseworkers. In my reports, I've asked these well-paid migrant managers at the Inn of Chicago, the former Standard Club.
So I'm not going to play all of it to kind of give you guys a taste of it. This is what the report is all about. It's about these healthcare workers. William J. Kelly here to unpack it all for me on the line. William, unpack more of this for us.
Yes. Well, it's a crisis in every sense of the word. As you well know, Chicago hasn't really recovered from the lockdowns and the looting crisis of Lightfoot, and now we have Johnson, who hasn't even addressed the violent, the out of control street violence in the city of Chicago, what I call the domestic crisis, right? Just in Chicago this weekend alone, 35 people shot, 7 killed. I mean, those are numbers that should be, alarming for any mayor of any city. A 7-year-old was killed, 11-year-old shot in the head, 12 people shot within 2 hours. I mean, at what point does this become, an issue that Brandon Johnson actually addresses? He hasn't addressed it at all. 10 armed robberies in an hour on the Southwest Side where I grew up. Now we have these crash and grabs where, in some cases, teenagers as young as 14 years old are stealing cars and crashing them into storefronts so their friends can then run into the store and steal whatever merchandise, random merchandise they can lay their hands on. What makes these crash and grabs so alarming is that typically this type of behavior was only associated with civil rights. Whenever there was a civil rights issue in the news, that's when this looting, I guess, is what I typically refer to it as, would occur. Now it's just a daily occurrence. So this is the problem that we're already dealing with. And now we have imported this foreign crisis of migrants. We don't know who these people are. We don't know what their criminal records are. We don't even know really what their names are, where they came from. They're overwhelmingly Venezuelan, military-age Venezuelan men. But that doesn't, I've been at the airport and I've seen to interview, obviously, to do stand-up reports on migrants sleeping in the airport, and I could see with my own eyes, these were Middle Eastern men. These were men from all over the world. So I mean, it's we have literally allowed our government, apparently, to what can only be described as aiding an invasion of our country.
Yeah, foreign nationals. These people need to be deported. Now, I think it's interesting, these cash and grabs, what you're describing here, where they crash into a building and then they have all of their buddies go out and grab the stuff within the. So this is actually a tactic by the drug cartels at the southern border. So this happens in border towns like El Paso. So what will happen is these migrants or these what these illegal people will do in order to get over to get over the border into the country, the drug cartels work out a deal with them. What they'll say is, hey, crash this van. This happened. Crash this van into the school. This little border town school, I think it was in El Paso, Texas, but I'd have to double check. But crash the van into the school. All of the law enforcement, they're going to be going to that school. They're going to be dedicated to this area where you crashed into the school. You guys are going to jump out of the van and, try to run into the country. And the cartels put them up to this. So that way the cartels can sneak through a different way and have the law enforcement they don't pay attention to the drug cartel sneaking in through this other avenue here over the border. So this is a tactic that they use to get into the country. And now what we're seeing is they're continuing to use this tactic to steal, to rob from small businesses, from businesses in Chicago. So this is nothing new. They're carrying over these tactics that they learned from the cartels to get them into the country.
Exactly.
It's incredible that people.
Too bad we don't have some kind of sophisticated military or legal law enforcement in the United States of America to counteract this, Kat. If only we had an actual government that was that had some kind of effort. But yeah, I mean, this is happening every single day now. In fact, in one case, we had one store was actually hit 3 mornings in a row. Again, you would think that there would be some kind of coordinated effort by the Chicago Police Department to at least somehow keep an eye on that particular location. And on one of the occasions, believe it or not, they crashed a stolen vehicle through the window of the store, and then they escaped in a stolen Maserati. Okay, so I don't think people even can even fully grasp the absolute absurdity of what is taking place in Chicago right now. And now we can add to that this migrant crisis. As you know, Mayor Johnson went to Washington, D.C. to ask for $1 billion of, I think, 5 Democrat mayors went together to ask for $1 billion apiece. And now we have Biden is coming to Chicago this week. So I can only imagine that what Johnson is obviously going to say when Biden arrives in Chicago. Where's my money? That's that is essentially all Mayor Johnson seems to be focused on when he was first elected, if you recall. And people asked, people like me asked him, "What is your plan to fight violent crime in the city of Chicago?" He literally said, "First, give me the money." Kat, that does not sound like an answer that a mayor who genuinely cares about the safety and well-being of a city would ever give such an answer, Kat.
Yeah, well, and where's the money going? It's this $90 million that's going towards this this winter migrant shelter that's in, what is it, Brighton Park?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
and that's the other thing. The Brighton Park residents have made it perfectly clear that they don't want this migrant shelter. They are, they're the residents, they're the taxpayers. They should have some kind of a say in their community. when they tried to bring these concerns to their alderwoman, she accused them of attacking her. There was no actual video. There was no. I looked at the video. I didn't see any attack. But that this is what's happening now, Kat. And people like you and I should be very alarmed by this, especially when you ask. We're seeing it more and more when people, reporters, or even just constituents, citizens ask their elected officials questions. They're being accused of a crime. And last time I checked, it's not a crime to ask an elected official a question, Kat.
No, it's not. And especially good questions like the ones you're asking about the favorite healthcare staffing. So this was a COVID-19 staffing company. And now they're shifting from pandemic to really caring for migrants. And I mean, tell me about how much these people are getting paid.
Well, it's first of all, the city just re-upped a $40 million contract with favorite healthcare staffing. They also, interestingly, and I'm trying to investigate this. It's very, very difficult. There's no real accounting that they're not accountable apparently to anyone. Every time I ever go to one of these migrant shelters to try to ask questions or try to schedule an interview, I'm just told, I'm literally chased off the public sidewalk, as you can see in the video that was posted to my Twitter, I guess last week. That is still, kind of is picking up views and steam here, and these essentially migrant healthcare workers, whatever you want to call them, staffers, are billing the city for hours that are, that almost don't even compute. And if this is allowed to continue, they could be making up to $800,000 a year per worker. So it, like I said, all I've ever actually seen any of them doing is, chasing me off a public sidewalk.
Yeah.
So it's something that I'm having a hard time, I mean, my God,
what are they getting paid that much money for?
Getting paid to attack William Kelly. I know some people in Chicago that would do that for free. I mean, I don't get it. It's outrageous.
Well, here's the thing, and here's where my head goes. It's like, okay, you promised all of these people. I don't know how many people work for this favorite. What is it? The
healthcare staffing.
I don't know how many people work for this company, but really what this begins to look like is Mayor Brandon Johnson is taking federal money. He's taking state taxpayer money. He's taking taxpayers' money, and he is buying really migrants, I think, to campaign and to shill for them. I mean, that's what it looks like on its face. It looks really bad when you're paying these people $800,000 per year. Why are you paying them that much? And why does he sign these contracts, renewed this contract with favorite healthcare staffing? They were just a COVID-19 staffing company. It's like he's looking for work for them. And I mean, are they campaigning? Are they working on his behalf to get him reelected? Democrats reelected? Who knows?
These are all great questions, and they should be answered. I mean, the fact that there is no transparency is what is really the most alarming thing for me as a reporter, but also as a citizen of Chicago. And I have people contacting me that work at City Hall, not to mention obviously police officers that can't even get in and out of the lobby of their police station because migrants are sleeping on the floor, who are saying to me, who are telling me incredible stories, that any one of which would have been shocking. When I was growing up in the city of Chicago, I would have been completely shocked and horrified by any one of these stories. But now, sadly, we have elected officials who not only don't think that they need to answer any of these questions, Kat, but if you ask them these questions, you could find yourself being accused, if not charged, of a crime. I mean, this is third world stuff.
Yep. Well, William J. Kelly, we have got to take a break. Folks, don't not watch this video. This video is incredible. It's on his Twitter page. Look for reporter William J. Kelly on Twitter. It's at William J. Kelly on Twitter, and go to reporterwilliamjkelly.com. Thanks so much, William, for joining me.
God bless you, Kat. Thank you.
God bless you. All right. Folks, we are going to be back on the other side. This is Cities 92.9, The Morning Buzz. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. We're going to be back talking a little bit about Rashida Tlaib. She said that Joe Biden is committing genocide and that Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinians. And that's just not true. There's no such thing as Palestinians. This was made up word by the Caesar, who destroyed and really tried to cleanse Israel of the Jewish people. All the way back 70 AD. So this took place thousands of years ago. We're going to take a listen to what Pastor Timothy James Farrell says. Plus, we are going to be interviewing with Jasmine Jordan. She's going to talk about college campuses before the Senate, actually in a Senate hearing. So we're going to talk with her here on The Buzz. Woohoo! Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. So excited. We have a very special guest joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. She's actually going to be testifying before the Senate. Her name is Jasmine Jordan. She's just fantastic, and I'm very excited for her to be testifying before the Judiciary Committee this week. So she is from YAF, Young Americans for Freedom. She's the chairwoman. Her name is Jasmine Jordan, and she is a third-year student at the University of Iowa. Now, Jordan, along with some other college students and a civil rights law expert, they're going to testify in a hearing on free speech on college campuses. So the hearing comes on the heels, of course, of these pro-Palestine protests happening all over college campuses. IWU, Illinois Wesleyan students, we can see them in photographs holding up signs that say, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." That chant and that's an anti-Semitic sign. And the reason why is when you look at a map, they're talking about the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. And when you look at the map, that's all of Israel. So they're really calling for the eradication of the Jewish state, which is known as Israel. When they hold up things that say anti-Zionism does not equal anti-Semitism, that's not true, because Zionism, all it really is this fundamental belief that Israel should exist as a Jewish state. And that's all Zionism is, that you believe that it should exist and that Israel should be able to defend themselves. And you have that belief. Rashida Tlaib is out there saying that Joe Biden is committing genocide. Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinians. I'm going to unpack it here with Jasmine as it relates to college campuses, what she's seeing on her campus next on the Morning Buzz. Good morning, folks. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. I'm going to bring Jasmine up here for our stream. Good morning, Jasmine. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. You can hear me okay, and I can hear you, so we're good. Jasmine, I'm excited. We're going to be back for our radio friends here in just about like 6 minutes, but for our streaming friends, tell us a little bit about who you are and what YAF is and what you're going to be doing this week when it comes to testifying before the Judiciary Committee. That's a Senate committee, correct?
Yes. I believe it's a House committee. So is that
a House committee?
Yes.
Oh, before the House. Okay. Yep. House Judiciary Committee. Okay.
Yeah, so my name is Jasmine Jordan. I'm a third-year double majoring in political science and international relations on the pre-law track, and I serve as the chairwoman of Iowa Young Americans for Freedom. So our organization's parent organization is Young Americans Foundation. And what Young Americans for Freedom does is empower conservative activists on campus, and we really promote conservative values like national defense, traditional values, individual liberty, and then we take those out into activism projects on campus. So this week is Freedom Week. We're going to be celebrating how the Berlin Wall was torn down. So we put on like individual displays of that on campus, and also talk about how dangerous the progressive social movements like communism and socialism were, and how many people they actually killed, because that is something that's not talked about. We would literally have students walking around on campus wearing the communist logo proudly. And we're hosting Yummy Park in a couple of weeks, and people are literally defending communism, which I find to be absolutely insane.
So what's been going on at the University of Iowa as it relates to the pro-Hamas supporters? Has there been like pro-Palestinian uh, uh, crowds? Has there been pro-Israel crowds? Tell me what it's like over there in Iowa.
Yeah, so there's been a weekly protest going on in support of Palestine. And one of my Young Americans for Freedom members and I decided to go to this rally to, represent the pro-Israel viewpoint, and just to kind of see what was going on. So we just peacefully stood in the back, just taking notes and recording, like the chants, just to, see what they were doing. And they started marching, and we weren't going to join the march, but I just wanted to go across the street to get a video of it. So we both were standing there when two students approached us, and they started yelling at us. They were like, "You guys are part of Young Americans for Freedom, and all you guys do is record videos and post them online." And they were saying, like, "You guys don't actually have actual discussion with the other side." And I was like, okay, we can have a discussion right now then. We do offer plenty of platforms for discussion. We have our meetings every week. We table multiple times per week. And when we bring our guest speakers, you can have a discussion with them on campus. And they were then, instead of focusing on like the Israel issue that they were there for, they started complaining about us bringing Chloe Cole, and they were saying that we should have, because she is a detransitioner, so they were saying that we should have had someone who was trans, even though Chloe had literally transitioned before. So there's a lot of the issue with the whole like 7-minute debate that we had with them was they didn't like the answers that we were giving, because they only wanted the answers that they wanted, and that was all they'd accept. And then they finally, when they started talking about like Israel and everything, they just repeated the same lines of like just misinformation that a lot of these people have been fed. Like some people are saying that, Israel is colonizing, or that Israel literally created Hamas, which is so not true. So yeah, that's what I've seen a lot. Like a lot of people are just built up with so much anger and just so strong in the belief that Palestine is oppressed, even though Palestine has literally never ever been an established state. And they just kind of grouped together the same mindset. And so they did have a bigger rally this Saturday. And it was really good to see that there was this one guy carrying like the Israel flag, like all above the crowd. I really appreciated seeing that, because we definitely need counter protesters with a lot of protesters.
Yeah, well, we are going to be back for our radio friends, so we're going to take a brief break, and then we'll be back for our radio friends, and we'll talk about how you're testifying before the House Judiciary Committee about free speech on campuses. And I'm excited. Jasmine Jordan, just back in a couple of minutes. Okay, folks, back in a couple of minutes. We are going to be running through this with Jasmine. I do want to play a bit of audio. I think that is going to help us out coming back. And I like how Jasmine said there, they haven't been an established state. But where does the word Palestine come from? Because if it's not a country, then what is it? So I do want to share this bit of audio with you, and I think that it's going to be very eye-opening, and I'm excited to get Jasmine's reaction to this bit of audio that we're gonna share here. And then she's testifying in front of the House Judiciary Committee on Freedom of Speech. I want to ask her, hey, do they have a right? Do these pro-Palestinian protesters, and where does that end? The pro-Hamas supporters, them holding up these flags, where does that right end? Free speech. I want to see where she lies on this issue of, hey, do the Hamas supporters have the right to get out there and do what they want? And is it a double standard? Are they allowed to protest on the college campus, whereas maybe a pro-Israel protest wouldn't be able to happen? Let's take a listen. Here we go. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. This morning, I do want to talk a little bit about a BLM activist. She says she's extremely sorry because she spent all of the donations that were given to this organization to fund her lavish lifestyle, and she's out of the UK, and she's actually being sent to prison now, folks, because she was spending all of the donation money on things like takeout and Uber. And I think it's hilarious that she's come out and she's like, I'm just extremely sorry. Okay. We're also going to talk about RASHIDA TLAIB. She's accusing Joe Biden of genocide. And shortly after she does this, via Twitter, she gets out, she does this video, she accuses Joe Biden of genocide. On Saturday, these pro-Hamas protesters, they stormed the White House, very insurrection-y type vibes. And look, folks, all of these foreign nationals in that crowd that vandalized the White House, I think that they should be just deported immediately. They need to be deported. Now, I have a very special guest that I want to get to. She is the University of Iowa third year and leader. She's in her third year there at University of Iowa. She's the leader of Young Americans for Freedom at Iowa. Jasmine Jordan. She's actually set to testify before a House committee, U.S. House Judiciary Committee, Wednesday. So her and another college student, a civil rights expert, they're going to testify in a hearing on free speech on college campuses. So this hearing comes on the heels of a lot of pro-Palestine protests happening across college campuses nationwide and this rise of anti-Semitism. And I mean, here in Illinois, we had IW, Illinois Wesleyan. We had protesters holding up signs that said, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Clearly anti-Semitic. It's talking about how from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, Palestine will occupy that space. But you know, I'm going to bring Jasmine on. She said something through the break here. Jasmine, thanks so much for being here on the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. You said something about Palestine not being a state or not being like a country. Expand on that a little bit for me. What are you hearing on campus when it comes to these pro-Palestinian chants? Are you hearing from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free as well?
That is actually a very big issue that happened recently. So, 3 of the executive board members of the University Democrats had released a statement in support of Palestine with the From the River to the Sea written on there. And within at least minutes, they had to release a second statement saying that they aren't anti Semitic and they support people who do experience like anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Then a little bit later, they had to delete both statements, and the entire like statewide Democrat Party denounced these statements and is calling for the removal of those 3 executive board members. And so this is something that's kind of gone like viral within our state. And then like the Iowa State University Democrats, they want to like branch away from the Democrat Party. And I think our Democrat Student Association is thinking of doing the same. So it kind of just shows that a lot of people really think they can just get away with being anti-Semitic. And they genuinely think what they're saying, what they're doing is not harmful whatsoever. And they really think that they're in the right. And I also just found it ironic how they were talking about Islamophobia, because I have seen like almost none of that going on. All I've seen is people just hating on Jews, hating on Palestine, hating on Israel. When we had a vigil, Young Americans for Freedom, we had a vigil for Israel. So the executive board members led a group in prayer, and then we had a moment of silence for all the victims lost. And then we chalked messages and Bible verses and images like the Israel flag in support of Israel. And as we were chalking the entire like hour we were doing it, people just kept chanting Palestine. And like one of my members wrote support Israel, and someone was like, well, why don't you support Palestine? And then like a day later, when we came back to the same chalk drawings, anything that we wrote Israel, like support Israel or America should support Israel, Israel was crossed out for all of these chalk drawings, and instead
Mm.
Palestine was written right next to it.
So that's kind of where I want to bring our conversation today. As you know, you're testifying before the U.S. House Judiciary Committee. Uh, at what point, do these Hamas supporters, Palestinian supporters, whatever you want to call them, this side of the aisle, do they have a right to do all of this? And where does their free speech end? Does it end? And are they impeding on your free speech by crossing out Israel on your chalk drawings? What are you planning to say in front of Congress?
Yeah, I think that when people do cross out, erase, mess with our chalk drawings, that is impeding on our free speech. It is against University of Iowa policy to write on, to wash away, and remove any person or organization's chalk. And so what I'm really going to bring when I speak to the House Judiciary Committee is how our conservative voices and viewpoints and are constantly silenced, not just like the erasing of chalk, but also our flyers always taken down, while the university Democrats, their flyers stay up for several months. We, like, even when we're tabling, people just scream at us, yell at us, and harass us, and that you never see that happen to the other side. When we bring our speakers to campus, we just brought Chloe Cole, like I mentioned before, and they barricaded the building so that no one could come in, no one could come out. And you don't see this again happening with other left-leaning organizations or anything. It's not fair. The playing field needs to be equalized for freedom of speech, because again, we're constantly silenced. The left is not. They get to roam free, do whatever they want, say whatever they want. That's why they feel so empowered to constantly hate on Israel, hate on the Jewish people, because they know they'll face no repercussions.
Right. And it's not so much an issue. Would you have an issue with them being able to do that if you were able to, in the same sense, fly pro-Israel flags or write with chalk, America supports Israel, and not have it? Would you be satisfied then if you were able to do, or if you were able to exercise free speech?
Yeah, I just want us to be able to have the same opportunities as they do without our stuff being silenced or erased or anything like that. Like, that's literally just all we need, but it just constantly keeps being denied. Like, we've talked to the administration, we have plenty of videos of people erasing our chalk, taking down our flyers, but it almost feels like it isn't enough sometimes, because these people still, because we have the same people, doing the erasure and silencing, and it's like they obviously still feel some sort of entitlement because they keep coming and doing it again. Like, I don't know if they're being punished or anything by the school, or what exactly on the other end.
Some cases, I mean, here in the state of Illinois, he was a TPUSA guy, and he was actually beaten by some pro-Palestinian supporters, and he was actually escorting this Jewish couple back to their car after a pro-Israel rally that was taking place in a synagogue. So he Peter Christos is his name. He was actually just walking. He's a member of TPUSA. He was just walking this Jewish couple to their car because this Jewish couple was terrified to go back to their car after the synagogue meeting. And I mean, a lot of this, and you already alluded to it, that there was some violence towards people in attendance for the speaker, Chloe Cole, who's this detransitioner. So explain, have you seen violence? Have you seen something just go a step too far on campus there at the University of Iowa?
Yeah, so thankfully, we haven't experienced like super huge amounts of violence. Mostly it's just people that, are yelling and screaming. But also when we had Matt Walsh last semester, like, our attendees were getting spit on, and people go as far as like the leftists, they like take videos and pictures of everyone's faces, trying to like release that online and like try to expose the people who are there in support of Matt Walsh. And they built like, the 20,000 marbles, trying to prevent people from coming into the venue. So more so what they try to do on campus, so far at least, is to just try and block people from entering and leaving the venues.
Wow. Wow. So what else do you plan to discuss before Congress, this House Judiciary Committee? And it's happening on Wednesday, right?
Yes.
So what else are you wanting to, and who else is going to be with you testifying?
Yeah, so Connor, he is a fellow Yaffer. He used to be the chairman of University of Buffalo's YAF chapter. And I think the big thing that he's going to focus on with his testimony is when they hosted Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, who is a Black conservative. A lot of people were just so outraged by that, thinking like, oh, like Alan West, they're saying like he as a Black man, the Black people, like, how they fought for their civil rights, and for him to be up on that stage talking, therefore he shouldn't, be siding with conservatives. And that it was like the videos are just absolutely horrifying of how they just rushed like the stage in the room. And I know like the chairwoman at the time, she had to be pulled into the men's bathroom by one of her friends and hide in there because they were like hunting after her. There was a huge mob just chasing her and they wouldn't stop. They literally were like, get her, where is she? We need to find her.
Wow. And you yourself, Jasmine, and I've had you in studio before talking about, as a Black woman on campus who is also conservative and a Christian, you've faced some crazy things. So just unpack some of that for me personally. What have you gone through as a conservative woman who is also Black on campus?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like it's definitely a hard thing to go through because there's pretty much no other Black female conservatives here on campus or that I like really know. And then my fellow conservatives that I work with, sometimes I definitely experience things that they don't really relate to. So it's kind of harder to just have to figure out how to deal with that. But it's just like the Black community here on campus doesn't want to accept me. And I kind of definitely stand out. Like I know when I'm walking places or in class, like people know who I am. So that's kind of like a
Well,
little bit
yes, of course,
scary.
because and
Yeah.
I'll never forget this. This was incredible when you were telling me about people printed your face on flyers. Is that true?
Yeah.
So tell me
Mhm.
about that. What led up to that?
Yeah, so we were hosting Matt Walsh, and one of my vice president, when he was chalking, he encountered some issues. Like literally every letter he would write for the Matt Walsh promotion was being erased by this leftist protester. And then as that was happening, another one came by and was on his bike and literally kept putting his bike in front so my vice chairman couldn't write anything. And so the college Republicans president was like walking by and texting our group chat. He said that he was sorry he couldn't help and that he hopes hopes everything went well for our event. And so I messaged him. I was like, okay, what are you talking about? And he said, the word tranny. He was like, some tranny is preventing your chapter from promotions. And so we, of course, agree with freedom of speech, but we had experience previously with people doxing, so people sending our messages throughout social media, getting like thousands of views. So we had asked him if he would delete that, and he did within like just a couple seconds. But somehow that screenshot of that message was taken and it was circulated everywhere on the internet, getting like a lot of views. And not only was that happening, but someone had printed out the screenshots with my name and picture, the college Republicans chairman's name and picture, my vice chairman's name and picture, and they put this all around town on the west side of campus and the east side of campus. And they kept putting these up. And even starting this semester, like this all happened spring semester, but with it being fall semester, people kept trying to like bring that up again. And, it was like horrifying to me because it's like, what are people going to do with this information? So that stuff went up around my birthday. And so me and my vice chairman and my former chairman, we all went out to eat for my birthday. And we were just walking downtown and this girl passes us and, we're just walking, don't really think of it. And out of nowhere, she starts screaming at the top of her lungs, just screaming her head off. She's like, F you guys. You guys are transphobic. You don't belong here in Iowa City. Get out of here. And, you know, everyone's like watching this as it unfolds because she's just so loud and just shrieking. And it was like, you know, it's like, I'm
Wow.
trying to enjoy my birthday. You know, it's like, I can't really
Mhm.
do anything like normal nowadays because everything is just so
Well,
highly
they
politicized.
doxed you. Well, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even your message. That's what the incredible thing
Yeah.
is here. It wasn't even your message. It was somebody else's message in this group chat where he it says the word tranny instead of transgender, and that's what they took issue with because it's a derogatory term to use the word
Yeah, I
tranny instead
also
of
find it very
transgender.
ironic because they use that word towards each other like all the time. So it's like when someone who is like, you know, the straight white male says it, then that's where they take issue. But it's like if you don't want people to use words, it's like, you know, kind of the same issue with the N-word. It's like
Mhm.
if you don't want people to use words, then like don't use it. Like you can't police language and you
Mm.
can't determine who can say what because it is literally protected under freedom of speech.
Yes, yes. Well, Jasmine, we are getting close to the end of this segment, but thank you so much for joining me here on the Morning Buzz, and good luck to you. So that's happening on Wednesday, where you're testifying before the House Judiciary Committee, and you're going to advocate for freedom of speech and focus on how conservative voices are silenced on college campuses. So I'm very excited to hear that, and I'll be praying for you, and I hope that they listen to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me.
All right, folks. Jasmine Jordan, check her out on Twitter and check out Young Americans for Freedom. She is a third-year student at the University of Iowa, and she's set to testify before the U.S. House Judiciary Committee. So wish her luck on the text line 309-451-9299. We're going to be back on the other side. This is Cities 92.9. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. We need more young people like her. Yes, she is fantastic. I've had her in the studio. She's gone to my church. It's been wonderful to talk and to get to know Jasmine. She is a firebrand. And she, even after, like, imagine, you know, walking around having your face plastered on every street lamp, on every tree in the city, and having your face plastered everywhere, and then also facing people screaming at you, yelling profanities when you're just out trying to enjoy your birthday. You wouldn't want to continue to be an activist. You wouldn't want to continue what led you up to this point. But Jasmine continues to do it. She shows resilience, and she's even going before Congress to talk about these campuses and how rabid they are. So I'm very excited for her to talk or to testify, to provide testimony before Congress. Um, and she's actually here from Blooming. I didn't even say that. I should have said that. She's actually here from Normal. This is why I had her on, because she's actually from Normal. So that's incredible as well. We're going to be back on the other side. This is Cities 92.9. Wow. Jasmine Jordan. She's a third-year University of Iowa student. And look, folks, Jasmine, she actually graduated from Normal West back in 2021. And she is a very influential leader. She's the leader of Young Americans for Freedom at or at the University of Iowa. And she and another college student and a civil rights law expert will testify in a hearing on free speech on college campuses. And, her big issue is, look, folks, conservative voices are silenced on college campuses. That is so true. And there's this rise of anti Semitism that is just being overlooked by college campuses and by college elitists, those of positions of power, and they're overlooking the anti Semitism that's happening on campuses. So Republicans have called to defund American universities over pro Palestinian protests. So they have called to defund this. American universities to, and I mean, she's the chairwoman of America's Young Americans for Freedom, and she has had her hand in organizing campus events where conservatives are attacked. Conservatives are attacked verbally. They are prohibited from attending events with guest speakers like Chloe Cole, who was a detransitioner, and she was invited to come speak at the University of Iowa. Look, college campuses are supposed to be beacons of free speech. They're supposed to be places where you should be able to share your ideas and not be silenced. And being that I actually attended one of these universities, I can say full heartedly that if you were a conservative, like I was so terrified of being a conservative on campus that I never let anybody know. I was so terrified what would happen to me, and I was so scared to let people know where I stood politically. And, good on Jasmine Jordan. She's much better than I am. I'm telling you right now, because I mean, after she told us the story about how she went out to eat for her birthday. She was doxxed. Her picture was uh, plastered all over the city, and people were yelling and screaming at her when she was just going out to dinner when it was her birthday. She went out to dinner with some friends, and she couldn't even move about her everyday life without being screamed at by some crazy leftists. And despite all that, she's still uh, going out there and she's advocating for um, freedom of speech for conservatives on campuses. And even after all of that, so I like this comment. Somebody commented on the YouTube live stream. I am live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. They said, we need more young people like her. Yes, we do. So big thank you to Jasmine Jordan. She's a local here. She graduated from Normal West back in 2021. And now she goes to the University of Iowa, and she's making big moves. And she's testifying before Congress. She's testifying before the U.S. House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday this week. So we're going to have her back on eventually. But I did want to chat a little bit about BLM activist coming out and saying that she's extremely sorry because she spent all of this donation money on herself. And she committed fraud. So she spent thousands and thousands of dollars in donations on her own lifestyle. She spent over $6,000 on takeout and Uber alone, and she's being jailed now for 2.5 years. She comes from the UK, so she's a BLM activist in the UK, and she had a organization that she was robbing from there. But her name is Zara Salim, and she was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for fraud. She admitted that she spent more than $32,000 in BLM charitable donations to fund her lavish lifestyle. So I'm not really surprised since Black Lives Matter as an organization in 2020, they raised $90 million. And somehow they've never been able to solve racism like they were supposed to. You had $90 million and yet there's still racism. So what did you do with all of the money? Well, I'll tell you what Zahara did. Salim, she's 23-year-old, and she set up a GoFundMe, and she raised all of this money before a BLM march took place, and this BLM march led to the toppling of this statue. It's the Edwards Colston's Edward Colston statue back in June of 2020. So she set up a GoFundMe for that march. She collected all of this money following the march. Donations were raised in the amount of over $32,000. She organized that event after the George Floyd incident, where he died of fentanyl overdose. And even though she's not American, for some odd reason, she cared a lot because, I don't know why somebody would care in Europe about George Floyd and that incident there, but she organized this event anyway, and she raised all of this money. And the funds, where were they supposed to go? Well, they were supposed to go to this organization. It's called Changing Your Mindset. That's the name of the organization, and it's a youth company in the city. And she was the director of this organization. So what she was doing, she was moving the money from a trust account into a newly opened personal account and went on a spending spree on these life expenses for the next 15 months after that march and after she collected all of these donations. There was no other source of funds dispersed into that account. So really what she was getting her money from in this account was from the trust account. So she made over 2,500 payments from that account to her personal account, and she spent more than $5,000 on Uber and in takeout. And she confessed to a friend, actually, in a text message, in a WhatsApp message. And she said that she committed something horrendous. And then she also said in that same message, my brain went on a spending spree and spent the money. I couldn't tell what, where, or why. So she's blaming her brain that she didn't have control over herself in the spending. And yeah, I'm sure that's exactly how it went down. Okay, whatever you tell yourself to sleep at night, honey. But the company has repeatedly requested the funds, but she's blown them off. And finally, in June of 2021, that's when she owned up to her crimes, and she finally said, I'm sorry, after several requests of that money to be funneled back into that account. And she goes, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to understand my actions as well. And this led to the subsequent closure of the organization, because really the organization was just a front for her to live this lavish lifestyle. So she pled guilty in September to this fraud charge, and she's going to be spending 2.5 years imprisoned. So imprisoned, she is spending time. She's serving time. You did not set out to defraud anyone, but you took the opportunity when you had control of the company's money and you spent it on your own expenses. So that's what the judge said. The judge says, well, you didn't set out to defraud anyone. I don't know. Her defense attorney said that she was extremely sorry, and they tried to justify that she was only 20 years old and that she had a drinking problem and drug problem and mental health issues. And look, I don't deny that any of that's true, but it's pretty ironic that somehow these people only ever say sorry after they get caught. She got caught. That's why she's sorry. I think she intended to defraud people. And she had control of this money. She set up this organization. She was the director of this organization. And I think she really did intend. Now, the judge says no, she didn't set out to defraud anybody. But I think it's ironic how these people somehow only ever say sorry when they're caught. In a statement released after the hearing, after she was sentenced from the organization, from the Changing Your Mind organization, some folks that work there, they said it doesn't feel that justice has been fully served, as we are unlikely to get the money back from her. It feels like we're being punished. It saddens me that a member of our community could do this to us because they knew and understood the goal that we set out to achieve in order to affect positive change in our community. So they said that they don't feel like justice has been fully served because they kind of got screwed, which is true. Yeah, you got screwed, but come on, what were you guys going to use the money on? To pay your salaries? You know what I mean? Like, they're all big bad about this, but really, what kind of how are you going to end racism with $32,000? Really? How are you going to end racism and be a positive change in your community? What are you going to throw money at? It's so sad. Ironically, recent reports have also suggested that the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation may not be too far from filing bankruptcy, actually. So last year, we found out that the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, they ran $8.5 million in arrears, while donations plunged 88%. So they're going to be filing for bankruptcy. And the co-founder, Patrice Cullors, resigned from the organization actually in 2021 after she was accused of using BLM funds for her personal use. And this is a charge that she's denied. She said that she did not use the BLM funds for personal use, but the New York Post says Cullors actually went on a real estate buying binge, and we can track this. She snagged like high-end homes here in the United States. It was totaled to $3.2 million alone in the United States, and more in other countries. So where did all of this $90 million go in total? BLM, this global network foundation, raised $90 million in donations in 2020. Where did all of those funds go? Did it actually benefit the Black community? And how many more millions do people need to donate before we fix racism, before we can fix racism? I genuinely want to know, where did the money go? Because right now it looks like Patrice here, the co-founder of the organization, she just went on a real estate buying binge, and it looks like other people in other chapters of BLM have spent it on things like Uber and takeout. So besides the hashtag Black Lives Matter, what else have they accomplished? I want to know, what else has Black Lives Matter accomplished? And I think we all know the answer. The true answer is nothing. They haven't accomplished anything, and it was a whole racket to get rich and to live these lavish lifestyles. These people at the top, these directors of the foundation, the co-founder of the foundation, it was a racket for them to get rich. Okay, I do want to shift gears. We're going to take a break. Let's talk about RASHIDA TLAIB. She actually accused Joe Biden of committing genocide, and I'm quoting her here. So we're going to talk about that because guess what? The pro-Hamas protesters, they insurrected their way throughout the streets of Washington, D.C. on Saturday. It was very insurrection-y what happened in Washington, D.C. at the White House over the weekend. Don't worry, Joe Biden's okay because he was out weekending on the beach. He wasn't even there in Washington, D.C., but they stormed the White House and they chanted for the elimination of Israel and the elimination and the eradication of Jewish people. So there's a big problem with anti-Semitism going on in this country. We're going to be back on the buzz discussing more. This is Cities 92.9. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. Yes, so earlier in the show, we talked with Illinois University, or the University of Iowa student. Sorry, she's from Illinois. She graduated from Normal West back in 2021. She's a junior currently at the University of Iowa. And she is going to be talking before Congress, before the House Judiciary Committee, about free speech on college campuses. Now, Republicans, they have called for the defunding of American universities over these pro-Palestine protests. So Iowa politicians and Republican presidential candidates have been steadfast in their support for Israel. The Israel-Hamas war has claimed 3,000 lives since October 7th, and the number of hostages continues to remain unknown. And the IDF is currently reporting like 200 missing people. This is terrible. And I mean, we've got Republicans out there calling for the defunding of these universities. And I really do think that we should be defunding these universities if they are allowing anti-Semitism to just run rampant. This isn't free speech anymore. This is clear hate speech, anti-Semitism. And look, I agree. I think that, there's a very, very fine line we have to walk. And I don't like the hate speech laws either. I think that there is no such thing as hate speech. I don't understand that at all. But and hate speech should be protected under the freedom of speech. And I'm not advocating for hate speech. I think that it's terrible. But here's the thing: they play by these double standards. Now, if there were white people chanting this about Black people, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But because it's pro-Palestine chants and because it's Democrats and leftists who are on that side, they're allowed to continue to spew hate and anti-Semitism and this ethnic cleansing that they want to take place. I truly do believe that's the case. And it's no different than what happened in 70 AD. So I want to get to the origins of the word Palestine, where that comes from, because we all know that it's not even a country. So when people say free Palestine, I don't know what the hell they're talking about, because it's not even a country. There's no Palestinian people, really. This was a term used by the Caesar, who conquered and who defeated Israel and broke up Israel, and all of these people scattered in 70 AD. And he named the people from all of these other Arabian countries, the Palestinians, Palestine. Um, and it was almost like a big screw you to the Israelis and to the Jewish people, because he probably knew the Hebrew language. Philistine actually means invader, and the Philistines have been these people who have consistently gone after Israelis, the Jewish people. Goliath was actually a Philistine back in biblical historical context. Let's put it into context, folks. Let's look at the Bible. What does the Bible have to say about it? And once you begin to even unpack a little bit about the history and about what the Bible says about it, Hamas in the Bible is used. I mean, the term Hamas is used in the Bible. And what Hamas translates to in Hebrew language, it's actually lawlessness. So that's what Hamas means. It means lawlessness. And these people have no laws. It's not a country. And we're going to talk about the historical context here, because it just frustrates me so bad that there's these pro-Hamas supporters out there and they don't even know what they're fighting for. That's the thing. They think that there are these actual innocent people, these innocent Palestinians in this country, and they're not Palestinians. That's not, and I truly do believe that they're just mistaken. I think that there's non-Israelis who are innocent here, but the Israelis are not occupying those people. The Israelis are trying to live in peace, and there is a faction of these Arabians, these Muslims, who want to see the eradication of Israel, and they have been constantly invading Israel. Um, so we're going to talk about the word Palestine. What does the word mean? Where does it come from? And we know it's not a country. We know that much. We know it's not a country. But where does it come from? And what does it mean? What does Palestine mean? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And it's important because we got to talk about Rashida Tlaib. Because Rashida Tlaib, she went out there and she accused Joe Biden of genocide for supporting Israel, which is so funny because Joe Biden doesn't even necessarily support Israel. Okay, so he might get out there and say it, but in no way are our spending packages. I mean, our packages are going to humanitarian aid on both sides. I mean, we funded Iran, was it $6 billion or something like that? We gave Iran that money, which subsequently led to Hamas carrying out the October 7th attack. So, really, Joe Biden is a genocidal maniac, but not for the reasons Rashida Tlaib is talking about here. So, this just goes to show she's ignorant. Okay, Joe Biden is not in any way pro-Israel. Okay, he has funded both sides of the war. Now, if you are pro one side of the war, then you would be giving money to Israel only. But he's giving money to both sides, and he gave money to Iran, who subsequently gave it to Hamas to carry out the October 7th attack. So she's mistaken, severely mistaken, Rashida Tlaib, in saying that Joe Biden is pro Israel and that he's pro genocide because Israel is genociding the Palestinians. Excuse me. Woohoo! Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. In the 8 o'clock hour, what are we talking about? Well, I'm so excited because we're going to talk about the word Palestine. What does it mean? Where does it come from? That's so important that we get that right because Rashida Tlaib is just severely mistaken here when she's accusing Joe Biden of, quote, genocide. Uh, Joe Biden is a genocidal maniac, but for different reasons. Not for the reason she's claiming. She's claiming that because he's pro Israel, that he is pro genocide because she's claiming that Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinians. There's so much wrong with that, and it's incredible because her statement about Joe Biden uh, committing genocide against the Palestinian people led to these pro-Hamas protests over the weekend on Saturday, and it was very insurrection-y. They stormed the White House. They chanted for the elimination of Israel. But don't worry, our president is okay. He was weekending on the beach this weekend, so he was having a good old time. He was vacationing. So prior to the storming of the White House, the people claiming to be if there were people claiming to be White House and congressional staffers, actually. So these staffers joined the pro-Hamas protesters in undermining their employer's position. So Joe Biden's position that he supports Israel. Joe Biden doesn't even support Israel. Okay, that's the thing that I really want to get through people's skulls, right? These leftists, they think that Joe Biden supports Israel. That's not true. He's funding both sides of the war currently. And look, if you were pro Israel, you'd be giving money to Israel, not both sides. He's giving money to both sides of the war. He's fueling both sides. Um, and he also gave $6 billion, I believe it was, and something to the tune of $6 billion to Iran, who subsequently gave that money to Hamas, who ultimately committed the attack on Israel on October 7th. Okay, so he gave money to Iran, knowing that it could full well get into the hands of these Hamas terrorists, and they used that money to commit this attack against Israel. So Joe Biden is not pro-Israel. So I mean, Rashida Tlaib is mistaken, but her comments did lead to this insurrection. These pro-Hamas supporters storming the White House. We're going to talk about it here coming up in just a little bit. This is Cities 92.9. See me live in studio. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Cat Peterson 929. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We are going to be talking about Rashida Tlaib, how she is sorely mistaken. Like, this is so wrong. Joe Biden isn't even pro-Israel. That's what really peeves me off about the whole situation. They're sitting there saying that, oh, he's pro-Israel, he's committing genocide because Israel is occupying Palestine, as if Palestine is a country. There's all kinds of mistakes being made here, and the leftists don't know what the hell they're talking about because they've never picked up the book. And by the book, I mean Bible, the Bible, the instructions before leaving Earth. So the Bible even uses the term Hamas throughout it, and it refers to Hamas actually means lawlessness in the Bible. In biblical context, it refers to it as lawlessness. So we're going to talk about this because I thought it was interesting that we even have White House staffers and congressional staffers joining the pro-Hamas protesters, undermining Joe Biden's position, his perceived position, because like I said, it kind of changes on who you're talking to, even rhetorically. So he's not pro-Israel when it comes to financial uh, means by any means. He's not pro-Israel because he's fueling both sides of that war. He also gave money to Iran, which subsequently led to the October 7th attacks. It's Joe Biden's fault this happened. Okay, so he's not against Israel, this terrorist attack, this original catalyst for this war to be broken out. It's his fault. Okay, so he's not pro-Israel. The U.S. Office of Palestinian Affairs, which is his office, they tweeted out when it happened that Israel should cease fire, and they should not defend themselves. That's what the Palestinian Office of Affairs tweeted out when it happened, and he did not condemn that. Nobody was fired, from what I understand. But these Democrat staffers are doing this weird thing where instead of shutting up and doing what they're told, they think that their bosses are supposed to kowtow to them, which I think is just kind of funny because in no planet, in no world, does the staff get what they want? Because as if the president or any congressman should care what comes after, your staffer demands blank, fill in the blank, right? No president is going to care about what the staff demands for, okay? No congressman is going to care what your staff demands, okay? So these people are low on the totem pole. They're staffers, okay? They don't make the decisions, and they think that if they were to be rowdy or yell and scream, which is what these White House staffers did, that they're going to get their way, but that's just not how that works. Malcolm Moore, he was there also on Saturday, storming the White House. And look, it's just it's so that they are just so misguided. These pro Hamas demonstrations. Um, there was FJB chants, and I love a good FJB chants. Fudge Joe Biden. Uh, but that's when it's in reference to things that he's done, like the economy, the border crisis, and how Joe Biden supports letting boys compete against girls in high school sports. Okay, so we chant FJB, FJB. When it comes to Israel, Joe Biden has been right rhetorically sometimes. Okay, so in uh, recent weeks, he's been talking about Islamophobia and how there's been this rise in Islamophobia. On this show, we've unpacked that and we've said, hey, no, that's not true. Look at all the anti-Semitism cases. Those account for over half, near 60% of the hate crime instances. There's like 1,590 in the United States. So, like, to even say that hate crime is an issue is kind of funny because that's only 1,590 cases. Think about everybody in the United States that's like this much. Think about all the crime that's committed in the United States. That's about this much when you're talking about 1,590 cases. And of those cases, all of them almost are cases of anti-Semitism. 9% of them are of Islamophobia. So Joe Biden, sometimes he says that he supports Israel with his rhetoric, with his words. When it comes to money, clearly not, because he is fueling both sides of the war. He gave money to Iran, which led to the October 7th terrorist attack. So we're back here on The Buzz. So Saturday, there were a lot of chants. They chanted things like "Fudge Joe Biden," except they didn't say fudge. Okay, but they were saying "Fudge Joe Biden," and there were calls for the elimination of Israel. It's really disturbing when they say things like "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Palestine, like I said, not a country. We're going to get to the word here in the 8 o'clock hour, what it means. But there have been attacks against Israel, leaving thousands dead. October 7th, this was this terrorist attack. And during these demonstrations, which happened because Rashida Tlaib, and I truly do believe this, Rashida Tlaib, she got out there, said, and accused Joe Biden of genocide. He is genocidal, but not in the way that she says. She says that he's genocidal because he's pro-Israel. He's really not pro-Israel, but and me, you know me, Cities 92.9, we are all for a good FJB chant, okay? In reference to what he's done to the economy, the border crisis, what he's done to Israel, and how his supporters are letting boys compete against girls in high school sports. Yes, I'm all about the FJB chants. I love it. But when it comes to Israel, Joe Biden has been right, kind of. So sometimes his rhetoric is right on, and he says that, yes, there's anti Semitism. Yes, I'm pro Israel. But other times, and as of lately, he's been talking about this rise of Islamophobia, which just isn't true. When you look at the hate crimes, it's 1,590 different hate crimes, and a majority of those, over 60%, are cases of anti-Semitism. So think about all of the crime that's committed in the United States. Only 1,590 cases. I think we're doing pretty good when it comes to hate crime here in the United States. I don't think that there's a whole lot committed when you talk about it statistically, and then when you go even further and talk about it statistically, when it comes to Islamophobia, that's just, I mean, it was 9% of the 1,590 cases were cases of Islamophobia. So his rhetoric is okay sometimes when it comes to Israel. It just kind of depends on the day of the week and who his handlers are. So he's kind of been right on Israel a little bit. But when it comes to the finances, of course not, because he's funding both sides of the war. He also gave $6 billion to Iran, which subsequently led to Hamas carrying out this terrorist attack. More on the other side. This is The Buzz. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. We are going to be back talking with Jerry Vogler for Veterans Corner. And you're probably saying to yourself, hey, Kat, it kind of looks like an insurrection, what happened on Saturday. Wouldn't you call this an insurrection? It's borderline, yeah. And I definitely think there's some insurrection-y type elements to it. Multiple videos and angles show hundreds of angry protesters up against the White House fence. You can see this, and then they climb the fence. They throw red paint on the fence as they blame Joe Biden for the genocide in Gaza. Okay, so for the so-called genocide in Gaza, that's not happening, folks. Israel is defending itself. The incident came after tens of thousands of people gathered in D.C. on Saturday to protest Joe Biden and the U.S. government's support of Israel, alleged support of Israel. Some protesters went as far as to call Joe Biden Genocide Joe. So, look, if Republicans had been doing this in the name of Israel, they would have been shot. Okay, we've already seen this play out. J6, Ashley Babbitt, she was shot because she was protesting her government. Because she was a Republican, she was shot. Joe Biden was on the beach over the weekend, by the way. Hey, Kat, this kind of looks like an insurrection. Wouldn't you call this an insurrection? Yeah, well, it's borderline insurrection, and if not a full-blown insurrection, there's definitely insurrection-y elements to this. Multiple videos, the angles, it shows a lot of these angry protesters up against the White House fence. They threw red paint onto the fence. They blamed Joe Biden for the genocide. So the alleged genocide going on in Gaza, you and I both know that that's not true. Israel is defending itself against the Hamas attack, the October 7th attack. And this incident came after tens of thousands gathered in D.C. to protest. And this was a lot of like White House staffers, congressional staffers, and they were protesting Joe Biden and the U.S. government's so-called support of Israel. Really, they haven't been steadfast in the support of Israel. I'm going to be honest with you. And I don't think that we need to provide humanitarian aid or money to Israel. And I'm not calling for that either. What I'm saying is that we shouldn't be funding both sides of the war. We're giving humanitarian aid to Gaza. We're also giving humanitarian aid to Israel. And not to mention, this wouldn't have happened had Joe Biden not given money to Iran. He gave him $6 billion, and Iran gave that money to Hamas, and Hamas carried out the terror attack that left 1,400 people dead on October 7th. So the incident this incident where there were some really crazed protesters who threw all of this paint. There was a gathering in D.C. of Biden staffers, of U.S. congressional staffers. They were protesting, and some of the protesters went as far as to call Joe Biden Genocide Joe. Genocide Joe. He is Genocide Joe, but because he gave money to Iran, which subsequently led to Hamas committing genocide quite literally against Israelis. And look, we've already kind of seen this play out. If Republicans had been the ones who were pro-Palestine and were the ones out there, I mean, they'd be shot. We already saw this happen. J6, Ashley Babbitt, she was shot at point blank range. She wasn't climbing through a window, folks. And I did a disservice here on this program. I thought she climbed through a window. The media it had been convinced that she climbed through a window and busted through a window. No, she climbed through like this door that was in the rotunda. The window was already broken out. She was following people in, and this Capitol police officer shot her from point-blank range and killed her. And look, if these people were Republican and they were throwing paint on the fence at the White House, if they were acting this way, if they were defacing statues, now they would have been shot by Capitol Police. That's what happened on J6, and that's what would have happened had those people been Republicans. But they're Democrats who are pro-Palestine. Palestine isn't a country. And we're going to get to the word Palestine and what that means and where it comes from. But Joe Biden is safe. He's safe because he was on a beach all weekend. Joining me here to talk about Veterans Corner, Jerry Vogler. Around 8 o'clock on Mondays, we do a little thing called Veterans Corner. Veterans Day is actually on Saturday. Jerry, tell me about what's going on locally here for Veterans Day.
Well, on Veterans Day itself, there's probably 7 or 8 different events held at some of the nursing homes and those sort of things. Those are kind of private affairs for the residents and families of the people who are living there. However, there are several big ones here coming up. On Veterans Day, the annual, what we call the McLean County Veterans Recognition Day, will be held at 11 o'clock on November the 11th, which is the official ending time of World War I. And it will start on the east steps of the old courthouse, or today it's the McLean County Historical Museum, with a 1 rifle volley every minute from 11 minutes to 11 till we get to 11 o'clock. The ceremony this year, because of the uncertainty of the weather, will be held indoors, and there will be a guest speaker. In fact, as I understand it, I'm going to be the guest speaker. And on top of that, we're going to have the usual salute to the service branches. We're going to have taps, a rifle salute outside, and then a bagpiper playing Amazing Grace. So it'll be the usual Veterans Day. We're welcoming not only the veterans, but because it's not on a work day, we hope that the general public will come out. And since it's going to be inside where it's warm, they'll come out in big numbers. It'll be held probably in one of the courthouse actual courtrooms. So we're looking forward to that. Then another one, which is more small town America, and that is the Aerosmith American Legion Auxiliary each year puts on an annual free breakfast for veterans. And it's on Veterans Day this Saturday at 8:30 a.m. at the Aerosmith Community Center, which is on Ulmer Street, if you're familiar with Aerosmith. There will be an appreciation to veterans for their service to the country. And after the breakfast program, there will be a featured speaker, Matheny, Sam Matheny, who is on Channel 25 TV and Peoria news team member. And it will conclude and include the singing by the junior American Legion Auxiliary members. So get out there at 8:30, have a free breakfast, join our small town appreciation of our veterans in Aerosmith. Then there's a couple more events coming up here. Gold Star Families on November 16th at 5 p.m. at the Central Illinois Regional Airport here in Bloomington will hold a Gold Star Fallen Heroes Tree of Honor event, which will include some military honors and the lighting of a Christmas tree by the Gold Star families. Gold Star families, of course, are those families that have actually lost a member of the family in combat in defense of this country. So it's a big deal. Come on out and join it and give notice and recognition and gratitude to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice and their families. Then there's one other thing that really isn't Veterans Day, and that's a local hero expo. And the city of Bloomington will be holding a Grossinger Arena from, I believe it's 3 to 7 on November 17th. And what it will be is a big expo with the fire department, the first responders, City of Bloomington Police Department, and a whole bunch of other service agencies, which you'll be able to go around and get information about those agencies. And I would expect with the labor situation the way it is, you'll probably get some information about available openings, especially in the police departments. So we're looking forward to that. It should be a great time. There'll also be a blood donation drive that will be held at that time also. So join the activities and learn more about public safety resources available in our community.
You're going to be pretty busy on Veterans Day, aren't you, Jerry?
Yeah, we've got like 6 events, and we'll probably split the crew up into at least 2 groups.
Well,
because some of us need the whole crew, and then part of them only need flag presentations. So
yeah, and maybe you'll have time to sneak away and go get yourself a haircut. I did want to plug this. This is pretty cool. For the 11th consecutive year, Great Clips, they're actually going to honor veterans and active military service members with free haircuts at all Great Clips salons in the United States as part of their annual Thank a Veteran event. So that's on Friday, November 10th, and Saturday, November 11th. Folks, I know we got a lot of veterans listening. If you need a haircut, maybe wait until November 10th and 11th for Veterans Day. for the Thank a Veteran. So I just think that that's kind of neat. Maybe you can swing out and get a haircut, Jerry, if you need one.
I will definitely do that.
So what else have we got for Veterans Corner here, Jerry?
Actually, happy birthday to the United States Marine Corps, 248 years now. And they are, of course, considered as the number one organization in the world that provides military forces. In our wars, are usually the first in, kind of leading the way. That and some of the other specialty forces like Rangers and SEALs and that sort of thing. But it is a Marine Corps birthday. That will be on November the 10th. I don't know that there's an actual Marine Corps League event that day, but Marines are the proud, the few. They're patriots. They serve in the toughest disciplinary organization within the United States military. And if you see a Marine sometime around Veterans Day, and especially on November 10th, just say hi and thank you for being a Marine. And to all Marines out there, Semper Fi, always faithful.
Always faithful. I love it. And we're getting close to our break here, Jerry. Anything else for Veterans Corner?
Just my quote of the day. I picked Douglas MacArthur, and the reason is a lot of people don't really understand how the military works with the government. It is under the control of the civilian government, and it's the civilian government that decides if, when, and where we go to war. With that in mind, we've gone from a civilian government that used to be back in the 50s after Korea, probably 60 or 70% veterans of military service. Today, I think we're down to less than a third. So the people that are making the decisions to go to war aren't necessarily the ones that have experienced it. And Douglas MacArthur, in a very, very short quote here, I think said it best of all. Quote, "I know war as few other men now living know it, and nothing to me is more revolting. But once war is forced upon us, there is no other alternative than to apply every available means to bring it to a swift end." And essentially, we have not fought a war to win it since World War II. The exception of that might have been Desert Storm, Desert Shield. However, that was even stopped short of totally defeating the enemy. So MacArthur said, if you're going to fight, fight to win it and do it quickly so that neither side loses any more people, especially civilians, than they have to.
Yeah, and I was just talking about Joe Biden and how he's really fueling, I think, both sides of this war, giving humanitarian aid to both sides. And I don't know, Jerry, I just don't think that that's ending it quickly.
No, it's not. And our last war, Afghanistan, went on for more than a decade again, just like Vietnam, not because we couldn't win it, but because we didn't have politicians making the decisions to win it.
Yeah, you got to win war, and nobody likes war, but you got to win them. So really quick before we go, I did want to ask you this question. It comes from a listener on our text line 309-451-9299. Ask Jerry, why doesn't Medicare and the VA work hand in hand?
Well, it's the old adage within federal government, especially, but even state governments, that one governmental body with its own budget cannot transfer funds from that organization to the other. So while the VA will take insurance from United Health, Humana, whoever, as part of the VA providing healthcare services to them, they cannot bill Social Security or they can't bill Medicare because of that rule of intergovernment transfer of funds.
Interesting. Okay. I thought that was an interesting question. Okay.
Yeah, that could be changed with a stroke of a pen, but it hasn't been, and it's been a question for years.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad you answered it here on the Morning Buzz. And Jerry, thanks so much for for calling in and letting our listeners know about all of the Veterans Day events that are going to be happening this week and on Veterans Day. And again, thank you, Jerry, for your service to this country. And I look forward to maybe seeing you I might be going to the Aerosmith event. That's the breakfast, correct?
Yeah, I've been out there myself as one of their guest speakers a few years ago, and it's a great event.
Awesome. Well, Jerry, you have a great rest of your day and happy Monday.
You have a happy Monday too.
We're going to be back, folks, on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. What are we talking about? Well, I've got a story here for you about RASHIDA TLAIB. She goes berserk, bananas, accusing Joe Biden of genocide in a video. And she's calling for the elimination of Israel, really, what she's doing. That's next. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. We're going to be talking with John Z. He's got the Sports Talk Chicago program on Saturday from 6 to 7 p.m. We're going to be chatting with him a little bit about the Bears game a little bit later. We're going to talk about Rashida Tlaib. She goes bananas accusing Joe Biden of genocide in this video. She even calls for the elimination of Israel. Democrat Hamas caucus member, that's Chairwoman Rashida Tlaib, paraglided into the national debate and the 2024 election on Friday. So on Friday, she shares out this video. I'm going to tell you about the video because she accuses President Joe Biden of genocide by saying America supporting Israel is the same as supporting Israel genociding the Palestinians. She couldn't be more wrong. And we're going to talk a little bit about Joe Biden, how he's expressed support for Israel since the October 7th terrorist attack, but how he's also not really supported Israel. So we'll talk about that all on the Morning Buzz. We're going to get to John Z first. Woohoo! Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Today is National Saxophone Day. A day to celebrate sax players. Today is also Nachos Day. A good day for some tortilla chips, some cheese. I really like beef on mine, chicken, jalapenos. I love spicy. I can do spicy food all day long. So what would be the last thing you would eat like for the rest of your life? Okay, if you could eat something for the rest of your life, what would it be? For me, it'd be Taco Bell. Full stop. I love Taco Bell. It's delicious. And today is Nachos Day. I would probably eat nachos for the rest of my life. I do like nacho cheese and jalapenos and chips and just all of it is so good. So what would be the food that you would like to eat for the rest of your life? If you had to pick one food to eat for the rest of your life, what would it be? Text me at 309-451-9299. John Z from Sports Talk Chicago joining me. He has a show on Cities 92.9 that's Saturday from 6 to 7 p.m. An explosive YouTube channel. John Z, before we get into today's talk about the Bears, let's talk about your show. Why should people tune in?
Yeah, hey, Kat, it's great to be with you. I'm appreciative of being on here, the program today on Cities 92.9. Why should people tune in? Well, we're going to give you the best, the most unfiltered and opinionated Chicago sports coverage out there. We're not worried about pissing people off. We're not worried about towing the line when it comes to things of that nature. We love that we get to say what we want to say all the time. And, thanks to Cities 92.9 and all of our great radio and TV affiliates who give us that opportunity to do it in addition to YouTube. And, don't want to toot my own horn, but the numbers don't lie. People are tuning in because we get to say what we want. And I think that's the reason why the show has grown so much. So certainly appreciative of that. And looking forward to always being on Saturday night, 6 to 7 here, 92.9.
Oh, yeah. So let's get into today's talk, the Bears game. So I got to know your reaction, the unfiltered opinion. What was your reaction to the Bears game?
Very disappointing. I did not predict them to win the game. I want to say that first and foremost. But as the game moved forward, the Bears had opportunities to win, including in the fourth quarter, 4 separate times just in that quarter alone. They had so many chances to win that game. They were up for the first half. They were doing really well. Tyson Bagent, backup quarterback who's come in to be the rookie after Justin Fields got hurt, looked amazing. And then the wheels fell off. And then the Bears collapse that we all know too well in the second half occurred. Too many turnovers, 5 turnovers in total for the Bears, 3 interceptions from Bagent, a fumble from Bagent, and a fumble from DJ Moore. And I don't care what kind of football team you are, you're going to have a lot of trouble winning football games with 5 turnovers. To their credit, they were in the game the whole way through, and they only lost by 1 possession. So that's what made it frustrating, that even after all of those mistakes and all those turnovers, they were right in the thick of it. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, they couldn't come through, and now they sit in last place. The NFC North, they're the worst team in the NFC North after that loss yesterday.
Wow. And how do you compare? Can we compare Justin Fields and Tyson Bagent? You were talking about some turnovers, a fumble. What do you think of the quarterback Tyson Bagent, and how do you think he did?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. So there's been a lot of talk about this. And before yesterday, there were some rumors, some inklings that maybe if Bagent did really well, the Bears could stick with him and kind of bench Justin Fields and move forward. A lot of people yesterday were also happy to see Bagent fail because they're Justin Fields fans and not Bears fans, or at least Bears analysts. Here's my reaction to all of that. Justin Fields is a top 11 pick. This is his third year in the National Football League. He came from Ohio State, highly touted prospect, great quarterback coming out of college, and we've seen what he's done in a Bears uniform. Tyson Bagent is a Division II undrafted quarterback who's played 3 games in his NFL career. Justin Fields should be doing a lot better. He should be blowing away Tyson Bagent. The fact that we're even having a conversation about who should be starting moving forward goes to show that's more of an indictment on Justin Fields than Tyson Bagent. Tyson Bagent's some D2 undrafted guy who, before the preseason, nobody even knew about. He actually has gotten starts and has somewhat performed. Yesterday, in the second half, the wheels fell off, but the first half was great. The point being, this guy's an undrafted D2 quarterback, and he is playing toe-to-toe with a top 11 pick, a first-round pick, a guy the Bears traded up for, who's in his third year and could be looking for a $200 million contract extension. So, in my opinion, there's almost no comparison. Tyson Bagent, to his credit, has impressed more. The numbers have been the same between the two, but that's just more of an indictment on Fields for how much stock he has, how good he's supposed to be, and then the numbers and the production that follow.
And I mean, what do you think that the Bears should do about the quarterback moving forward? What should they do with the position? Give it over to Tyson?
I think down the road, Bagent might get more opportunities here. I think he's going to be a very good backup, a competent QB in the NFL. I think moving forward with the Bears having a couple of potential first-round picks after this season, they may have to go draft another quarterback again. And a lot of Bears fans don't want to hear that, but if they're going to end up having 2 top 10 picks, like it seems that they will, it's not a bad idea to go out and take the top prospect in this class coming up. Probably going to do better, or at least have more hope behind him than somebody like Justin Fields, who through 3 years just has not proven that he is definitively the guy. He's had moments, but he's never proven it fully. We haven't seen enough from him to say, I'm comfortable giving him a $200 million contract. I haven't seen enough to say that. And a lot of Bears fans and even front office personnel feel the same way right now, too.
And I want to talk about the head coach, too, Matt Eberflus. Is he going to be safe in this next season?
Boy, I hope not. There have already been rumors and rumblings that by the end of this season, he's probably going to go. Nothing has been official yet, but the Bears are once again at the bottom of the NFC North. Last year, they finished with their worst record in team history at 3-14, and Eberflus has the lowest winning percentage of any Bears head coach since the inception of the franchise in the 1930s. Not to mention the fact that he's had 2 key coaches, staff members resign this season due to HR complaints, quote unquote, within the Bears organization. So not a good culture over there. Another last place season, more issues and more things going on inside and off the field. I think it's only a matter of time before the Bears end up saying we got to at least let him go. Ryan Poles might be safe, the general manager, but I think Matt Eberflus, with all the dysfunction and drama that has surrounded this team from last year going through this year, it's going to be really tough for him to stay and to survive come the end of this season.
Well, and amidst all of this, they're looking to move from Soldier Field, and there hasn't really been like a whole. I mean, I think they've looked at like, I don't know, 10, maybe 10 different locations, right? Have you heard anything about that?
So I've not heard anything specifically. I know that there are other cities still trying to submit bids to try and bring the Bears over. There hasn't been much movement on it. I know, Aurora, Naperville, Waukegan, Richton Park. Obviously, the Bears own the land parcel, the former Arlington racetrack in Arlington Heights. It was a $200 million acquisition of land, and the teardown on that land's already occurred. So the Bears were supposed to move there. But yet all these cities are coming through, and the Bears are having conversations with all of them. I don't know where they're going to end up going. I would say, if it were up to me, just stick with Arlington Heights. You already bought the land. You already had the demolition. People already know you're going to kind of be going there, and you could build a state-of-the-art stadium there. But a lot of other cities have come forward, and the Bears have had meetings with some of these cities, some of the ones that I mentioned. So it's anyone's guess what they're going to do. My personal guess is, though, they're probably going to stay in Arlington. but they are having meetings with other cities and municipalities.
And what should we be looking for the rest of the from the rest of the season from the Bears? What should we be looking for?
I'm just hoping we see some progress from some of these younger players. Rookie running back Roshan Johnson got some carries in yesterday's game coming off an injury. I'd love to see some progress from people like him. Other guys are going to be fighting for contracts and roster spots for next year. Maybe somebody like Tyson Bagent, even as a backup role. Deontay Foreman, he's certainly impressed at the running back position. The Bears brought him in from Carolina. He was inactive for the first couple of games and now has really turned it on once he's gotten an opportunity. And I'm really hoping, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners will agree if they've seen the Bears play these past couple of years, I'm really hoping by the end of this season, Velus Jones Jr., the Bears kick returner and wide receiver, is cut and is no longer a part of this team. He's made too many mistakes, too many issues on his part. Can't even catch a football. I'm really hoping that they end up cutting him by the end of the year, too. So some minor storylines to watch. And certainly player progress is going to be key. But also by the end of this season, hopefully we'll all have a better idea of the direction of this team moving forward, what they're going to do at head coach, what they're going to do at quarterback. There are going to be a lot of questions moving forward. And, we're going to have to watch closely to see what they end up doing.
Interesting. Well, John Z, thanks so much for tuning in or for calling in. And folks, watch his YouTube videos. They're captivating on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel at Sports Talk Chicago. Just find him on YouTube or tune in Saturday night starting at 6 p.m. on Cities 92.9. John Z, where do we find you? Where are your coordinates?
Yep, you can find me at John Z Sports all over social media, or follow the the show account at Sports Talk Chicago. And as Kat said, hey, we're doing some great stuff on YouTube. Happy to always plug Cities 92.9 on there, along with all of our radio and TV affiliates. We're regionally syndicated now. Obviously, a big thank you to Cities for being one of our stations on our syndication list. And we're super happy and super excited for this continuing partnership. So appreciative of the time and hope everybody continues to tune in.
Awesome. Thanks for all the sports news, John Z. We're going to be back on Cities 92.9 next, covering RASHIDA TLAIB and accusing Joe Biden of genocide. What? morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We're going to be back talking about Rashida Tlaib. She says and really accuses Joe Biden of genocide. We're going to be chatting a little bit about that. Plus, a roofing company in Florida, they're giving away an AR-15, a turkey, and if you purchase a roof, they're going to give these things away to you. And the libs are upset about it. They're screaming because an AR-15, big scary gun. I think it's hilarious, and I love this company. This company is based Turkey based based conservative. Get it? Okay, we're gonna be back. Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. It's Monday morning, 8:43 a.m. It's going to be a gorgeous day, mostly cloudy, a little bit of sun, highs in the 60s today. So it's a gorgeous weekend. I was asking you guys, hey, what would you eat if it was your last thing that you could eat? So if you had to eat this thing every day for the rest of your life, what would it be? People have been texting in. They were like, "Cat, it's pizza. I love pizzas." So that one I've gotten a lot of. Like 5 people texted in and said pizza. Me, I like nachos. Today is National Nacho Day, and I love nachos. I think I would eat nachos probably every single day or soup. I'm a big fan of soups, especially around this time of year. But before we took the break, I was telling you guys a little bit about Rashida Tlaib. So she is the Democrat Hamas caucus member. She's the chairwoman of it, and she paraglided into a national debate and 2024 election on Friday. So this video, she shared footage of pro-Hamas rallies throughout America. There were a lot in Illinois. She accused sitting President Joe Biden of supporting genocide. I think he supports genocide, but he supports the genocide of Jewish people if you want to look at his actions, not just his words. So, according to his rhetoric, he's kind of wishy-washy. A lot of times he'll say that there's this rise of anti-Semitism, but then lately he's been saying there's an unprecedented rise of Islamophobia, which just isn't true. So his rhetoric, he kind of says that he supports Israel, but that's really not true when you look at his actions, because his actions show that he is not really for ending this war between Hamas and Israel. He's fueling both sides of the war. He's giving humanitarian aid to both Gaza and Israel. And then he also gave money to the Iranians, and he gave $6 billion, which subsequently that $6 billion landed in the hands of Hamas. And Hamas was able to carry out the October 7th terrorist attack, which left 1,400 Israelis dead. This was a horrific attack. And she's accusing Rashida Tlaib here, Joe Biden, of genocide, saying that America supports Israel. She says that Joe Biden is committing genocide by saying America supports Israel. Okay. Sometimes he says America supports Israel. He doesn't even say that all of the time. His U.S. Palestinian Affairs Office, when it happened, the October 7th terrorist attacks, they actually tweeted out that Israel shouldn't defend themselves and they should ceasefire, that there should be a ceasefire. So Biden had expressed his support a little bit after the October 7th attack, where 1,400 Israelis were slaughtered, women were raped, families were burned, infants were beheaded. At first, he did kind of say that he supported Israel after that terrorist attack. Kind of, like I said, the U.S. Office of Palestinian Affairs, which is, and his staff, they came out and they tweeted from that account that that Israel should ceasefire, that they shouldn't defend themselves. Then Joe Biden's White House, they have lately ignored anti-Semitic attacks taking place throughout America, and they've been really focusing all of their energy. Kamala Harris coming out and saying that they're going to combat Islamophobia. And they've been giving money to both sides. So Rashida Tlaib, she tweets out this video, and the footage is just really all pro-Hamas supporters across the nation. And then at the end, she says Joe Biden is committing genocide. Majority of the American people are not with Joe Biden on the economy, the border crisis, allowing boys to dominate girls' sports, right? a majority of American people are not with Joe Biden on a lot of things. When it comes to Israel versus Hamas, Joe Biden is not always the wrong one, depending on the day of the week. He has said, I will say that he has said that he supports Israel, but it depends on the day of the week, and he definitely doesn't support Israel with his actions. Okay, so um, Rashida Tlaib, she should have been censured. She really should have, and shame on the Republicans who didn't censure her. So in the clip that Tlaib shares out on Twitter, the clip, they're chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Critics that call for it will say that this is a call for the elimination of Israel, and that's true. Because what they're saying there with that chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, that's from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. And if you look on a map, just look on a map, what that means is the eradicating of the state of Israel. It's about eliminating Jews. Israel is the Jewish state, and all Zionism really is. It's believing that Israel is a Jewish state and that it should exist and it should defend itself. So this is anti-Semitism when they say things like from the river to the sea. And it doesn't take a scientist or a scholar to know that. Just look at a map. Okay. We are going to take a break, but when I come back, playing a clip for you, the definition of Palestine, where does that word come from? The history behind it. That's next on The Buzz. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Did you guys hear about this roofing company? So this roofing company actually is offering an AR-15 with a turkey with the purchase of a roof. So you buy a roof, you get a frozen turkey, and you get an AR-15. There's nothing more American than that. It's called Roof and Gobble, which is a sale, and it's going on all month long, which I think is kind of funny that the liberals are losing their minds over this. I'm going to call this little deal Beauty in the Feast. Yes, so it is a beauty, this AR-15, and I've shot an AR-15 before. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't like the feel of an AR-15 just because they're super easy to use, and I'm more of a recoil person. I really like just having my arm thrown out if I'm shooting something. But Roof Easy is the name of the company, and you get a turkey. You're going to be sitting at the table, spending time together. And the roof is going to protect your home, and then the AR-15 is going to protect your family. So you can't get more American than that. Jason Polly, he's the president of the Roof Easy. Now, liberals hate Thanksgiving. They also hate guns. They hate the holiday. We're going to talk about it here on the Buzz. So I do want to play this. This is from my show over the weekend. It's titled Pagan or Christian with Tim Farrell, Pastor Tim Farrell of the Tabernacle. And we played this game where, is Halloween pagan or Christian? Is Christmas pagan or Christian? Is Easter pagan or Christian holiday? It's a really good, I think it's one of the best shows I've done. It's great. Or we've ever done here on Cities 92.9. So go take a listen to it. But right now I want to play the word or the definition of the word Palestine and where does that come from? It's going to help us when we look at these pro-Hamas supporters taking the White House by storm over the weekend. Here we go. In Hebrew, or at least a derivative.
Yeah, Palestine. There is no such thing as the Palestinian people, ethnically or biblically. It was an invention from the Roman Caesars in the year 135 A.D. When they destroyed Jerusalem in 70 A.D. The emperor of Rome, wanted to cleanse Israel of the Jews, and so there was this great dispersion, of course, in 70 A.D. In 135, they went in, the Romans, I should say, through their military, and really tried to cleanse the land, push the Israeli people out of their homeland. And in the vacuum and in the void of the Israelis, he brought in people from all over Arab nations and renamed the nation of Israel, the land of Israel, Palestine or Palestinia. And it actually comes from Rome. And so, that was when that's kind of the origin of that. It's not, it was made up. It wasn't even on the map before that. And so, the history of the Holy Land, the history of the people is 4,000 years old versus those of the Palestinian people. And so, there's been great conflict and, of course, over the land of Israel throughout history. And but that's the most current events.
So there you have it, folks. Where did that word come from? Actually came from a Roman Caesar. And it was a made-up word. There is no such thing as ethnic group called Palestinians. There is no country called Palestine. So when people chant Free Palestine, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. This has been Cities 92.9. I so do appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to do it all over again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Up next after me, it's Glenn Beck, Dan Bongino, Sean Hannity, and Mark Levin. You have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. Love you.